you, right. Do you want me to send it to your
I
Google
put mine
email?
on the discussion board that that we all put our topics on.
Oh.
That's where I put the email.
Oh, just on this recent one? Okay,
Yeah,
perfect. Okay,
yeah.
so I haven't done that yet, so I'll go and put mine on that.
Yeah, I'll put mine on there too because I don't know my school one by heart.
I know they're weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, so does anybody want to go first, or do you want me to start, or what?
Um, I really don't care. I don't mind going first. I could wait. I mean, it's really since are you the facilitator, Shay?
I think so, yeah.
Okay, maybe you should go first since you're the
Okay. And then we don't have a summary this week, right?
I would think not.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
So
yeah.
we just kind of like continue next week or whatever.
Right.
That
But do
order.
they say our names too?
He
When you,
said before we give our speech to say the names.
Okay.
So,
okay.
all right. I guess I'll start.
Okay.
Okay, so my name is Shay Munns, and my topic is cohabitation. So here we go. Do you ever wonder what cohabitation really is doing to our families? I have a cousin who lived with her boyfriend, and they had a baby together. Things didn't work out like they planned, so she's now a single mother to her little boy. Her life just got a million times harder. She has no job and no way to support the baby. Not only does she have a hard road ahead, but so does that little baby. He will grow up without his father in his life, and he will be living below the poverty line. Cohabitation is a huge threat to families and society today. In a recent study, it was found that 75% of women ages 30 or younger said they've lived with a partner outside of marriage. Nearly 1 in 5 women became pregnant within the first year of cohabitation, and fewer cohabiting women now get married soon after becoming pregnant. Many people don't realize that this is hurting our children. There was a recent study done with over 10,000 people, and it found that children whose parents cohabit are very unstable. When children don't have a stable place to be, they begin to feel unsure of many things. If they feel like they can't come home to the same things every day, they are likely to turn to other things that will create that stability for them. For example, children turn to bad behavior just to try to get the attention of their parents. When there are unstable children, they turn into unstable adults who don't know how to deal with everyday life, and they don't know how to handle problems that arise. These children are supposed to be the ones who will be leading our country when we are old. Do we really want children who don't know how to handle things being our leaders? If we would stop cohabiting and actually give our children a stable home, we wouldn't have this problem. Did you know that the increase in cohabitation is one of the largest contributors to the increase in poverty levels? Single mothers are less likely to be able to make the same amount of money that a father would be able to, or both contributing together. When single mothers are living in poverty, it means that there is so much stress within the home and children do not have the security they need. The Fragile Family Study shows that, on average, the earnings of non-married expectant fathers are higher than earnings of expectant mothers in the years before the child's birth. If these couples would stop cohabiting and commit to marriage, children would have a much more stable home to be cared for in. There are many reasons and excuses for cohabiting versus marriage, but we have to look at what this is doing to the future generation. Cohabiting takes away all the benefits that marriage and families have. Growing up, a child needs to feel that they are part of something bigger than themselves. They need to feel that they are loved and wanted, and this comes from a family. Nothing is better than those feelings, but they don't exist with people who are cohabiting. There is no reason to rush into living with each other. We should trust ourselves enough to commit to a person for the rest of our lives. Everyone would be happier if we were all a little bit more patient and really thought about our choices and how they will affect those around us. Yuri Rofenberg, a development psychologist, said within his ecological theory, the most important learning period of human life is the first 4 years of life. Even then, the individual is not a passive recipient of experiences, but it is instrumental in constructing the settings. It is how these individuals and organizations interact with the child that has a profound effect on how the child grows. The more engaging and nurturing these interactions are, the better the child will be able to grow. We need to choose the right environment for our children from the beginning. The way you live your life affects more than just yourself, so before you make any life-changing choices, just think about your children. Now, the government has tried to implement the cohabitation contract. With this contract, you can formalize aspects of your status with a partner by drawing up this legal agreement. This agreement outlines the rights and obligations of each partner towards each other. This is focused on the individuals for when things don't work out. It isn't helping the problem at all. Instead, it's making it worse. It's focusing on what's mine is mine and what's yours is yours. It doesn't create an atmosphere of a family. This is not stopping cohabitation, but instead making it more enticing because people can get what they want when the living arrangements don't work out to their liking. What are we going to do about this? How are we going to save our children? We need to educate people about the real effects about cohabiting. If people understood the consequences that came with it, they would be less likely to do it. If they realized that their children are the ones that get hurt and are suffering, parents would think twice about it. We need to promote the family and marriage. We should be teaching people to date and court each other instead of rushing into moving with each other. If we educate people about this issue, it will help diminish it. So let's get out there and make marriage and creating families the things to do. This will help our society and our children, and what's more important than our kids. And that's it.
Great. So are we supposed to ask you questions?
Okay, I think so, and I was trying to make sense of those questions when I was reading over this.
Yeah.
So I think that's how it's supposed to work, but I don't know. So go ahead, yeah. I guess we can ask questions.
All right, so the only question, and I think you might have addressed this a little bit, so sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself, but so my question is do you think that there are government policies or there's any kind of like a government type of influence that could increase the knowledge to people about the dangers of cohabitation? Because I feel like a lot of young people have the sense that it's really good to cohabitate, that will help them to find a good partner and to kind of test the relationship to make sure that they're ready for marriage. Like you talk to almost any teenager out there and they're like, oh yeah, live together first. Like that's the best way. Do you think there's ways that can be changed, that myth can be changed?
So I know that's one of the biggest reasons why people cohabit is because it's like, oh, this is gonna help with me finding a spouse, and this is gonna just be a good intro to marriage, and we can get settled and then go get married. And the government, the one policy that they have is the cohabitation agreement, but that's really all they've done. But I think that they could educate people and really sit down and this is what it is. Okay, I remember in high school we had our health class, and we talked about how when you have sex with other people, then you can get AIDS and all these different things. And I think if they included that, then it's a lot of people think cohabitation is good, but when you sit down and you look at the studies that have been done and just all the facts, most people that cohabit will end up in a divorce, and people that don't cohabit have stronger marriages and they're happier in their marriages. So I think just teaching it, like, I mean, I would teach it in school, you know, that would help people realize, like, oh, maybe it's not all that good, you know, maybe it's not. But I think it's just a world, it's the trend, it's what's in right now. And so, I mean, we have to stand up and be like, no, that shouldn't be the trend. It's okay to, you know, to get married. I feel like swimsuits are doing that too. I feel like it was like all one pieces and then it went to two pieces and now it's coming back that one pieces are okay. Like, oh, they're, you know, they're modest, that's okay. And so I think that if we kind of did that, someone stand up and get out there, then we could do that same kind of thing.
Okay, cool, thanks.
Yep.
The only question that I have is, how do you think, or what do you think would be a good way to maybe educate or get like a mom who cohabited, had a child, and then now is by herself to kind of be convinced that it's okay to marry and feel more confident once she's with someone else? Because I think some people, if that happens, they end up losing their confidence in like anyone else to let them enter their lives. So So how would you get people to feel more confident to let others enter their lives after they've had a situation like that happen?
So I think the biggest thing is like, so a lot of people will, like, they cohabit once and then just like, oh, just like moving on through like a boyfriend and they just kind of cohabit with them. So, but I think like, so like my cousin lived with her boyfriend and stuff, and so I think her biggest thing now is that she's actually realized that, you know what, living together, maybe that was just rushed too much. Like, we rushed into living together and we didn't really know each other, and they weren't on the same like wavelength of like, okay, this is a step towards marriage, and he's like, no, we're just having fun, you know. So I think once you go through it, some people, not all, but they realize like, okay, let me slow down before this happens, you know, and they really make that commitment of, I'm going to really get to know this person before I'm just going to go jump in and live with them and then get married if it's supposed to be. I think like some people are more apt to get married after it because they realize like, oh, that's not what I wanted. But I think like we definitely need to, I think counseling would be a good way to do it. So just talking to people about that and like, hey, look, you know, not everybody, and you're not perfect for everybody. Not everybody's a match. And so don't shut yourself off because this happened. It was a bad experience, but we have to learn and grow from it just like any other experience that we have. So just, I mean, I guess instilling it in people like a hope that, you know, I can still find somebody out there that's right for me would be a huge help. That answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
All right, who wants to go next? Paige? Me or you?
I can go if you want. I just have a PowerPoint, so I have to figure out how to make you guys see it.
Okay, that's cool.
So can you see that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm Paige Duto, and my topic was moral breakdown. Moral breakdown can be brought on by anything that can cause a mass hysteria. This is a phenomenon in which a major decrease or complete loss of moral values takes place within a particular society. The severity of this breakdown may vary depending on the situation and events that take place within the particular society over a certain time. The Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines moral as concerning or relating to what is right and what is wrong in human behavior, and also what you think is right or good. It reminds me of the way society depicts good and bad, with the little devil on one shoulder and an angel sitting on the other, trying to get us to decide which side is the best. Can you relate to a moral breakdown? We may not think that our personal moralism is breaking down, but maybe there are times when we tend to forget about it. Do you ever forget at work? Do some of your coworkers make jokes that maybe make you feel uncomfortable? Or with particular friends who don't share the same values that you do? Or what about certain public places? Maybe you go to a concert and there's people drinking around you that make you feel uncomfortable. Or the sports field or on the court. If someone doesn't like a certain play that is made, maybe they'll have foul language or come and foul you because they think that you did something wrong. Or what about a major one? I think a lot of people have road rage and it just comes out automatically and they don't even think about what their morals and values really are. I know that I can relate. I know that I have values and beliefs that I live by every day, whether they're simple or complicated, but I do notice that I tend to forget them here and there. I work at a bead shop, and it's owned by a mother and a daughter. They're both pretty laid-back people, and for the most part, we have regular customers that come in every day, so we get to know them. And it's gotten to the point where the customers feel really comfortable with the shop owners, so they can kind of talk to them about whatever, even just about daily life, and my bosses feel the same way with their customers. So sometimes when they're sitting at a table teaching how to make a certain bracelet or necklace, they'll just come out with certain jokes that might seem clean, but if you think about it a little bit, they really meant something else. And I know that when I'm sitting there, jokes like that make me feel uncomfortable, but I don't say anything because they're my bosses. They're higher than me. I don't want them to maybe have some sort of comment that I'm not ready for back at me or just think other things, I guess. And I know that it also happens when I play soccer sometimes, kind of before how I talked about the soccer field. Sometimes there's a player that maybe I think should have gotten called on, or there's another player that thinks that I did something wrong, and sometimes there's words exchanged, or the other person will come and foul you, and it reminds me of when you hear the saying, treat others the way you want to be treated. And if I say something back to someone on the soccer field, that's not really the way that I want to be treated, so I shouldn't be saying something back or retaliating by doing something. Recently, What Matters Most, a Newsweek poll, polled 506 parents of children ages 0 to 3 years old and asked them about their most important goal as a parent. The most common response given by 48% of the parents is making sure their child grows up to be a moral person. Although it's hard to believe or hard to achieve teaching your children to be moral sometimes because things are no longer traditional. Parents and children used to be embedded in a network of family and community that contributed to the moral upbringing of children. But now, families are becoming more and more isolated or more non-traditional. Now, some children might only have a dad, or they might only have a mom. Hopefully they have a mom and a dad that have a solid relationship together, but then there are also children that might have two moms or two dads, or they live with their brother or sister or aunt and uncle, and that's not a traditional family anymore. Parents are now responsible for most of the moral upbringing of their children, where it used to be everyone kind of contributed to the moral upbringing of the children. What causes moral breakdown? The difficult tasks of raising moral children is compounded by other forces in the lives of children and parents that promote unethical, immoral, and self-focused behavior. Some things that can cause it is war, natural disasters, change in government, media, insecurity, unemployment, economy, and that's just to name a few. The biggest one is family structure, and that's because the traditional family is not really being followed anymore. The conduct of the United States youth during the last 20 to 30 years has been marked by two trends. One is a rise in destructive behavior, and two is a rise in self-destructive behavior. Family structure is the core to the moral breakdown in our society. The way that we are raised when we are young teaches us the importance of morals and values, the good and the bad. Children learn moral values mainly within their families, and they mainly rely on their parents as role models because that's who they're around the most. If a child does not have a strong emotional attachment to a parent, the effectiveness of the parent as a teacher and moral guide is greatly reduced. Children tend to observe the people they are around the most a lot. So if their parents are doing something negative, maybe abusing substances, they're going to view that as maybe correct and the right thing to do, and grow up to do the same thing unless somebody educates them what truly is right and wrong, that they shouldn't be abusing those substances. And on the other hand, just like families that maybe spend a lot of quality time together and maybe go on outings every weekend or every once in a while and build that family bond, those children that are in those families are going to understand that it's important to have strong family relationships. And when they grow up, they're going to teach that to their children too. There's a lot of broken families, which I've been talking about because of the untraditional family breaking up. Families are no longer as strong as they should be or used to be. Therefore, core values and morals are not being taught or modeled. The weakening of stable marriages through observation is the main reason for moral decline in society. So that goes back to the different relationships that adults have that they think form a family, but in other people's eyes might not. When families are unstable, when parents are absent, emotionally distant, or preoccupied, or whenever parents themselves are immoral, the learning of moral values by children is greatly slowed down or misunderstood. A lot of the time, people think that it is important for only parents to instill the moral values in their children. But sometimes parents need help, or parents are not putting those morals in their children. So if other people can and know about it, maybe it's a good idea for them to try to help out too. There was a researcher from Harvard, I believe, that wrote a journal, and in his journal he wrote that some polls that he researched indicated that about 70% of public school parents want schools to teach strict standards of right and wrong, and 85% want schools to teach values. Research also suggests that many overworked, grade parents, doubting their capacities as moral mentors, are looking to schools to take on a larger role in their children's moral growth. Some of these programs are being implemented in some schools, but not a lot. I know I personally have not heard of these two programs, and I don't think that when I was younger, experienced specific programs to teach me morals. It was more or less of there were certain assemblies that everyone went to, and they promoted that it's not good to be a bully, or if you are bullied, this is what you should do, or they posted positive quotes and sayings on the walls. I know when I was in high school, there was one thing called Rachel's Challenge, and it was about a girl who, I believe she was in the Columbine shooting. She was like one of the first ones to get shot, and her family has formed an organization, and they travel from school to school to tell her story, but also to let everyone know how important it is to not bully, or if you know someone is being bullied, to try to help them or get that person help so big things don't happen like school shootings. So one of the programs that I found was Middle School Visions. It was created by Duke University and was designed with broad, defined goals of facilitating character development and civic engagement in middle school students. It In it, students would become more invested in their education and more engaged in their communities. They would make more beneficial life choices and influence their peers more positively. Any young individual's exposure to this MSV program would facilitate the development of moral and ethical values, personal resilience, and pro-social behaviors. And then the other program is character education. It sounds like that character education was used a long time ago and then kind of went away and is slowly starting to come back now that society is noticing that morals are kind of going away. Character education, which addresses many tough issues in education while developing a positive school climate, is a loose term used to describe the teaching of children in a way that will help them to develop into moral, civic, good-mannered, behaved, traditional, compliant, or socially acceptable individuals. In other words, it teaches values and appropriate behaviors that hopefully they're learning at home, but they might not be. Some ways that maybe we could fix this is to take smaller steps in fixing this. We can try our best to keep and promote the traditional family. We can create more, maybe even free programs for individuals to better educate themselves on parenting and how important values are. We could eliminate a lot of negativity and innuendos from TV, or maybe just not watch TV at all, or purposefully look for ones that are positive and educate us rather than making our brain cells go away, I guess. We can also be good role models because we know that children watch the adults that they are around constantly and usually imitate some of the actions that they do. So if we're doing positive, good actions, hopefully we will see those same actions in our children. And we can also advocate for moral development programs in education, since it seems like maybe there are some but not enough, or they're not being used as frequently. Instead, the schools rely on the assemblies or the quotes that they put on the wall or the morning announcements with something positive in it. And then these were just two quotes that I thought spoke kind of what I think and were just true to the topic. When you have to start compromising yourself or your morals for the people around you, it's probably time to change the people around you and not yourself. And then you say my morals are old-fashioned, I say it's a sign of being brought up properly. So if we can educate parents to be good parents and parent positively and in good ways to help bring up their children, maybe people will no longer think that morals are old-fashioned. And then that was it.
That was awesome.
That was good.
Thank you. So do you guys have questions?
So, do you think that people, I guess, really care that the values of, I guess, the moral values of others are decreasing? Do you think people, like, are aware of that and, like, that they really care? Or is it just kind of like, oh, whatever, he can believe what he wants to believe, or he can do what he wants to do?
Yeah, I think that it depends on the situation and the people. I think there are some people that do care about what others think, but then there are those people that are just like, whatever, you can believe whatever you want. So I really think that it just depends on the situation and the people, and I guess also probably how they're educated, like what they know or they taught about bias, or are they biased. But yeah, I think it depends on the situation and the people.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that you actually quoted a study that talked about parents and how important they felt that it was to teach their kids morals, and a big portion of them did feel it was important.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like it's reflecting in society, and I think that that means that parents don't really know how to. So my question kind of was along those lines. Do you think that it would be more effective to target parents in teaching their children, or do you think it's more effective to target the schools because parents are failing?
Yeah, I think again, that it might depend on the situation, because the parents that maybe need to be educated might not go and receive those words from others.
Yeah.
So in that situation, then yeah, we probably should go to the schools. But if they're willing to go and listen to what other people want to teach them, then I think we should start at the parents. So I guess it depends on parents' views and if they're willing to learn from other people or if they're stuck in the way that they think.
So you think it'd be more effective to do it with the parents, but that the reality of that is probably not
Right.
going to happen with a lot of people.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't think I have any more questions. You covered everything really well. It was really, really, really well done. I remember my kids being in some of those programs in middle school.
Really?
Yeah, like the values, programs and stuff. And I thought that they were still there. I thought it was interesting that you said that they kind of went away, but now they're starting to come back again.
Yeah.
But I think that anything would help, right? Like,
yeah, I agree.
they can. All right, so I guess it's my turn. So my speech, the name of it is The Mystery of the Disappearing Frenchman, and the topic is about depopulation, the threat of depopulation. So my last name is Trépanier. It doesn't sound like it looks, but when pronounced correctly, it is a beautiful French name. It is my married name, and although I have some French heritage, mostly my ancestors come from Scotland and Ireland, my maiden name being Riddle. However, I recently became interested in finding out more about my husband's French background, and I made some interesting discoveries. Most of his ancestors are from Quebec. That's the correct way to pronounce it. Quebec, Canada. Indeed, the name Trépanier is as common there as Smith is here. The more I traced, however, I finally found the ancestors who originated in France, and they were not ordinary people. They were dukes and landowners and courtiers who hobnobbed with people like King Charles. Another discovery was that of an ancestor named Peter Arvey, and he was on my husband's mother's side, and he was orphaned and adopted by a Mormon pioneer family. His name implied that he was from England, but our discovery was that his name was changed from Pontier to Peter, and his last name was Arve instead of Arvey. He was also French. So my husband has a lot of French ancestry on both his father and his mother's side. He has more French blood than he thought, which actually makes him a rarity. Alarmingly, the number of full-blooded Frenchmen is rapidly declining. The main reason for this threat is the pervasiveness of depopulation. The basic definition of depopulation is when there are less children being born than the amount of people that are dying. Therefore, the human population is not maintaining a replacement level. Many people believe that this is a good thing. A fairly mainstream opinion is that the Earth is overpopulated and its resources will run out because of overpopulation. However, many people do not have a good understanding of what it could mean to societies as population decreases. Let's take a look at the country of France. Its fertility rates reflect most European countries. The fertility rate to date is 2.1. This is barely replacement level. However, most of the people having children in France and Germany are immigrants from either the Middle East or North Africa. They're of Muslim descent, and they are the greatest populations in France and Germany. The fertility rate among the native French is at around 1.3. Not nearly enough to replace their population. In addition, abortion rates are at an all-time high. I'm going to try and share my screen now to just show you this table that I found. Let's see. Oh. Oh, here it is. So these are the number of abortions since 1976, and the different headings are the different people that have tried to track these. But you can see that here in 2002, the SAE, that's a reporting organization, they showed it at 205,627 abortions, and that's increased quite a bit. So the rate of abortion it just continues to increase. One could say that the French society is essentially committing suicide. Right now, the French population is rapidly becoming top-heavy with the elderly. An important economic consideration is there are fewer numbers in the working and tax-paying bracket to maintain the care required of the non-working elderly. Here's a quote from the organization called the Population Research Institute. The world's fertility rate halved over the past 50 years from a world average of about 5 children to today's world fertility rate of about 2.4 children. Half of the world population lives in a country with total fertility rate below replacement level, 2.1. Unless trends reverse, half of the world's population lives in countries that will experience negative natural growth rates in the next 50 years. The full effects of current low fertility are only starting to become visible. Most countries with below replacement fertility haven't started shrinking yet, only because the previous generations haven't died from old age yet. Demographers have coined a new term to describe this current phenomenon. It's called lowest low fertility, to describe the multitude of countries where women are having an average of 1.3 children or fewer. Approximately 10 countries currently fit this description. Another 100 countries have fertility rates below 2.1 children. So what? What does this mean? There are more far-reaching consequences of depopulation than the extinction of a particular race, such as the French or the Germans, the greatest being the effect of low population on the economy. The foundation of world economies is human capital. This is the production of services and products made by humans. As the human population declines, the economies need to fuel themselves by either higher rates of population, so people need to have more babies, or the current younger population needs to be more productive, or they have to have more ingenuity on how to produce. We are giving our children a grim future of working harder and receiving less compensation as they strive to support the lives of the older generations. I want to talk a little bit about the reasons that so many people are choosing to have less children or no children at all. One of the reasons is tied to religiosity. Many studies show that those who consider themselves religious also value family and feel that children are a gift. In addition to these feelings, studies show that there is a steady rise among industrialized societies who consider themselves non-religious. These people have given the nickname of nuns, N-O-N-E-S, because when asked about their religious affiliation, they choose the nun box. The main focus of secularism is individualism. The central truth that they live by is that one of self-awareness and self-improvement. These two ideas are not bad for society in and of themselves. However, if it is at the expense of having a family, then this overriding ideology of individualism has a great impact on society. Self-awareness and self-improvement in the context of family connections provides two very powerful ideas for the success of society. Rather than one ideal combating the other, these two attitudes of family and self-improvement, when cooperating, will produce future generations that are in a position to improve the conditions of their communities, societies, and even the world. The first step in this process, though, is to actually procreate. Economics are driven by human capital, which I mentioned earlier, which is defined by the knowledge, skills, and information that humans acquire to produce goods and services. Sustainability in any society is dependent on its human capital. Either the next generation needs to be more educated, more inventive, and harder working, or the future generations just need to increase in numbers of people. Government policies can help shift the misled attitude that our world is on the verge of resource collapse because of overpopulation to an attitude that supports couples having children to sustain the human race. Individuals can educate themselves on the negative impacts of depopulation by visiting websites like the Population Research Institute website, which is incredibly educational and talks about the different threats to populations and the different problems that this creates. Another good source of information is in a documentary that can be found on YouTube called The New Economic Reality, A Demographic Winter. I would invite everyone to watch this, to get a group of people together and watch this documentary to find out what the truth is behind population decline or even overpopulation. Find out where your tax dollars go in reference to childbearing. Millions of tax dollars are used to support abortion, contraception, and sterilization, not only in our country, but through programs that support birth control throughout the world. I urge young people to seek an understanding of what true happiness means to them. I believe that you will find that true happiness comes only when it is shared by someone who you can create your own family with. I urge the older generations to share a smile or a word of encouragement when they see a mother with her small children in public. Perhaps you can even thank them for providing the future with greater industry, ingenuity, and productivity through the wonderful means of procreation. My children love their French heritage and their unique last name that is beautiful, but one in which they have to correct the pronunciation constantly. The French people have a rich and wonderful culture that is threatening extinction because of low fertility rates and high abortion rates. Explore your heritage and what it means to you in your life. Will your heritage also be a thing of the distant past for your posterity, much like the Roman culture is in our world today? The truest indicator of the success of a society is its power to replace its population. This is true of all populations in the animal kingdom and with insects, with any type of population. If it can replace its population, that means it's being successful. Unfortunately, by this measure, in our world today, the human race is destined to be unsuccessful. Thank you.
Good job.
Yeah, that was good.
So I don't know if I missed it or not, but did you say, is there a government program or something that I guess they're doing to help with this, or no?
Not a government program, but there are several independent research facilities that are trying to educate people on depopulation.
Okay.
So, no, there are not any now, but it would be good if governments could be influenced to stop spending our tax dollars on different ways to promote birth control, which is what they're doing. They're going, our tax dollars are going into programs that are going out throughout the world, and they're trying to encourage women to get like semi-birth control, IUDs and things put in, or even permanent sterilization. So, yeah, our government is on the opposite end of this, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Do you think that any one type of culture, I guess, or origin, if there's no intervention, that it'll just go like extinct?
Yes. Right now, the different cultures that are have the most threat of going extinct are some European cultures, so Germany, France, but also the Japanese. Their fertility rates have been declining since World War II, which is the opposite of what happened in the United States with the baby boomers. And so they just keep going, lower and lower and lower. And yeah, that whole group of people may be, wiped out if they can't figure out how to encourage their young people to start having children.
Yeah, I guess it's something that you never really think about happening to the human race. Like, we hear about it happening to different kinds of animals and stuff, but not so much to us, I guess.
Totally. Yeah, the word extinction is kind of like,
Yeah.
So, sorry. Why do you think that people think that depopulation is good?
depopulation is good? You mean because they...
Why do people like are in support of it, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Well, I think it comes mainly from this idea that came about back in the 1970s from a man who did a lot of research on population growth, and he wrote this book called The Population Bomb. And in his statistics, he was showing, he used a formula that showed that we were going to just keep increasing. And so from what he was seeing, he thought that overpopulation was an immediate threat, and it was something that was going to cause world hunger. It was going to cause that we just didn't have the resources. It was going to cause all these problems. And it just became a really permanent way of thinking. Hi, baby. And it just hasn't gone away. There's been nobody there to say the opposite end of it. There's been nobody there saying, you know, finally there are some researchers that are saying, wait a minute. I think that we weren't using the right proper equations, because this is not really how populations work. And so they started to research it more and recognize that overpopulation is not the problem, that most countries, most people are having less and not much children. And there's lots of reasons why that's happening, but anyway.
Got it.
I can't think of any other questions.
Did he just wake up from his nap?
No, Daddy just brought him home. They were out and about, but he has to go back to school.
Yeah. Well, that was good. He's so cute. All right, so
I think that's everything, right?
yeah, I think we're done. Good job, you guys.
Good job.
All right.
So just, you guys are gonna post your emails on the discussion board, right?
Yep.
Okay, awesome.
So what do we post? We just post. Oh, I'll put our email, and then we can do the feed or the form.
Yeah.
Is there a place we're supposed to turn in a reference sheet too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's under the persuasive speech delivery, and that's where you're supposed to put the reference page.
But we don't have to put the whole speech. We just need to put the reference page, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, guys. Well, have a great day.
You too.
See you next week.
City council meeting.